guys, welcome back to my channel. Kat here, and this is Catadactyl. So today I am going to go over my super ambitious December TBR. So I am currently in like the greatest reading mood of all time. I think it is a reaction to November where I was writing a lot, so I had almost no time to read. I only read 4 books, which is like crazy for me. So I have just been reading so much. I'm already into like my 5th book of the month. So for December, I am TBRing 15 books, and that may seem like a lot, but currently I am in the best reading mood of all time, and in 2 weeks school is finished, so then I'll have 2 weeks of reading before going to Australia. So I am just so keen to get into all these books. So I'm going to TBR 15 books, but my secret, very hopeful goal is to read 25 books. I know that sounds crazy and like impossible, but if I do read 25, then I would read 200 books this year. So I know that that's like crazy and I shouldn't do that. That's why my real goal is 15 books, and my like super ambitious goal is 25 books, because I mean, I don't know what is so nice and sweet about that 200 mark, but I think that reading 200 books in a year would just be like so amazing. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get into it. I'm not going to go into the books so in detail because there are 15 of them and we would be here all day, but I'm just going to go through manga, and then books that are sci-fi or fantasy, and then books that are fiction. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So the first 2 are my 2 mangas, and it is Akira Volume 3 by Katsuhiro Otomo, and then of course Akira Volume 4. So this book follows a main character who is the lead of his motorcycle gang, and one day they accidentally stumble upon a secret government experiment, and things kind of go from there. And it's set in kind of like a Neo-Tokyo, so it is just a manga classic, and I cannot wait to get into it. So let's get into probably my favorite category, which is sci-fi fantasy. So the next book I want to get to is I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. This is a science fiction classic, and it deals very heavily with boundary line between humanity and machines, and I really can't wait to get to it. It is a classic and it's quite short, so it is going to be perfect for my super fast reading month. The next book I have is The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham. Earlier this year I read The Chrysalids, and while I wasn't completely convinced by the end of The Chrysalids, I think that John Wyndham is definitely a author that I will read continuously from now on, because some of his ideas were really great, and the way that he tied different elements in was really just kind of the way that I like things done often by like Orwell and Bradbury, kind of a simplistic manner of telling the story. Because the elements speak for themselves, you don't need to add a lot of extra detail and a lot of extraordinary language. So I'm really interested in this one, which I believe deals with plants coming alive and eating people. I think that was how it was sold to me, so I'm here for it. And I'm so ready. Next up is Before Adam by Jack London. I have tried to read this a few times, I just never managed to finish it. So before the end of the year, I would really love to finish it up. And this is a Jack London where a boy is getting dreams from an earlier time, and the dreams are actually his ancestor in the Paleolithic period, I believe, when people are between ape and man. So I think that this will be a really interesting read. It is also very short, and I'm really looking forward to it. I really hope I get to finish it up, because you know how it is sometimes, like you have a list and then you look at the pile and you're like, oh, I would so much rather read, you know, this book, which is a Peter Pan retelling, than this book. That's just kind of how it is sometimes. So speaking of that, the next book up is Tiger Lily by Jodi Lynn Anderson, and some of my favorite booktubers really love this retelling. I've been saving it for Christmas because I know that I'm just going to read it. It's going to be like a sweet little treat, and I'm just going to sit down and devour it. So it is a Peter Pan retelling. I don't know what else you want from me. Peter Pan retellings are amazing and I love them. I was especially blown away by Peter Darling earlier this year. So this is told from Tiger Lily's perspective, and it is how her relationship changes with Peter when Wendy comes. So I'm really intrigued to see how it goes, and I hope my heart isn't broken, but I am. So I am completely here for a Peter Pan retelling, and I'm so excited to get into it. I cannot wait. And speaking of cannot waiting, is The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night by Jen Campbell, and I have been wanting to read this book forever. I think that this book will just be an amazing set of short stories. So one of the stories involves buying a heart of a girl online, and there are also tales about mermaids, and I'm kind of saving this one for a day where I can slowly savor it. So probably once school is ended, I don't want to put it in my bag because I don't want this beautiful cover to have dents or anything, which is not how I treat most of my books, but some books are, you know, treated better than others. So that is one of these books. I cannot wait to get to it. And a book that is perfect for this very cold season is The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. This book deals with a childless couple in Alaska in the 1920s, and for some reason they are not able to have a child themselves when one day they see a child in the woods and take to caring for her. And then they also start to see a fox creature, which may or may not be the soul of the child. So there is some mysticism and magical realism woven into the very cold setting. I'm a little nervous because of two reasons. One, the length of it, and also I've heard mixed reviews. Some people really like it and others have DNF'd it, so it's kind of a mixed bag. But I think that it is going to be perfect for the winter season, and I can't wait to get into it. And a book that is radically different to that cold setting is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. I have been wanting to read this forever, and oh my god, look at that cover. This book deals with a girl who lives in a town where the ruler of the town takes a new wife, and every morning that wife is killed. So her best friend is killed in that manner, and she decides to become one of his wives and take revenge and kill him herself. So the story is a retelling of Arabian Nights, or 1001 Arabian Nights, and I just really cannot wait to get into it. I think that I will love it, and I just really can't get over this cover. So maybe on a day when it's really cold and I need some warmth in my life, I should pick this up because it takes place in the land of the sun and the sand. So I am really looking forward to this one. Okay, so getting into my fiction picks, some of these are books that were sent to me for my birthday, which I will haul in a separate video in more depth. But the first one is The Good Girl by Mary Kubica. And this deals with a girl named Mia who is one day kidnapped against her will and held in a log cabin. And she has amnesia and she can't really remember much of what happened to her. And the story is told from multiple perspectives, both before the incident and after Mia is returned. So I think that it might be a really amazing thriller, or it might fall short for me. That's usually how I am with thrillers, so we will see with this one. Along that same vein is Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. This one is also a thriller. A woman marries a man who she thinks is largely perfect. His last name is, of course, Angel. But when they are married, it turns out that not everything is as it appeared to be, and what happens behind closed doors may not be the perfect life that they portray. So I think that this one could be in the same vein as The Good Girl. It could either really be an amazing thriller for me, or it might be like a DNF or very low star. So now we're getting into some of the reads that I have been wanting to get to for a while. The First Time She Drowned by Carrie Kletter. So this is about a mother and daughter relationship that has had to grow through a very rough childhood, and then the daughter goes into the mental institution, and then she comes out of it and has to deal with her mother again. So I feel like it's going to be a great exploration of family and also mental illness, and I really hope it is done well, because if it is, it could be a favorite of mine. I think a lot of the times it is done badly, so I'm really hoping that this is done well. Next up is 4th of July Creek by Smith Henderson. When I read the back of this book in the bookstore, it was giving me major My Absolute Darling vibes, which is kind of weird because this was a 2014 publish and My Absolute Darling was this year, so if anything, My Absolute Darling gave me 4th of July Creek vibes, but you know what I mean. 4th of July Creek follows a caseworker who works with families that are poor or otherwise in need of help. So one of the families that he's trying to help is a father who is a doomsday believer, and he's kind of apocalyptic, and the son who is kind of a feral young child. And I think that this book will be really interesting. I hope that I will really like the writing style, and I hope that the elements are done well. It says that it was one of the 100 notable books by the New York Times Book Review in 2014, so if that is anything to go by, I might really enjoy it, but usually, sometimes I align with book lists, and sometimes I hate those books, so it could go either way, really. But if anything, the selling point is that it gave me really strong vibes of My Absolute Darling, which I loved and 5 out of 5 stars. I will leave the link to My Absolute Darling down below, because if you think that you would like this book, then you would probably love My Absolute Darling. Yeah, so I am so keen to get to it, and actually I'm already this much through. Because I just like couldn't help myself and I really, really wanted to get into it. Then next up is In the Miso Soup by Ryo Murakami. I tried to read this for October, for Halloween, because it is kind of gory and very scary, but I couldn't find a print in Japan. They just don't sell this book because it is kind of outside of the mainstream. It deals with the sex industry in Tokyo and also a string of serial murders. So Ryo Murakami is also an author that is not so well translated in Japan, because while Japanese people themselves might read it often, they don't want that image to be portrayed abroad. So I actually had to buy this book from a library in the UK, and then it was shipped here. So that's why the library cover itself was all ripped. But it's totally fine, and I have already read this book. I couldn't help myself, and I will definitely be doing a review of it very soon because I really loved it. And getting into the last book this month, I'm borrowing A Clockwork Orange from my very good friend, and this is by Anthony Burgess. So I don't know a lot about A Clockwork Orange, I just know that it is a crazy ride and it is completely effed up, and that's kind of how this one was. So I do enjoy all sorts of books, and really effed up ones are definitely in there. So I really can't wait to get to this. And that wraps up my 15 book TBR. So I'm really hoping to get to all of these. Wish me luck. And what are you guys going to read for December? Do you have any that you're wrapping up? I cannot wait for school to end so that I can just spend all my days reading and avoiding wedding planning. Yeah, so that's what's happening. And thank you so much for watching this. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. It would really mean so much. And I can't wait to talk to you guys in the comments. And I'm gonna just say toodles for now. Yeah, so toodles!